YouTube video. So this is a live YouTube video. I'm recording this. I'm at the Supercharger here in Wyoming, at the one in Cheyenne, and I had to stop and I had to talk about the new upgrade to the Autopilot. So Tesla put out a blog post today. Elon put it out, and it's titled "Seeing the World in Radar." This means that with the new 8.0 software, they unlocked a lot of new sensor information. So they're now able to gather way more information from the sensors on existing Autopilot cars. This means, like, I was reading one of the comments on Reddit that you can have a car from 2014 when they added all the Autopilot features, and through a software update, you now basically have the latest 2017 model vehicle. So it's pretty cool that they're doing this for free for everybody over the air update. So it's a really long blog post. I recommend you read it, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly all the things that they're doing, but they go in length to explaining exactly how the radar works. They're saying that the radar can see people, but they are partially translucent, so the radar kind of sees through people a little bit, but it can't see something like a soda can reflects, or like even if it's cut out and it's kind of round on the bottom, it'll actually magnify it and it'll bounce back. So there's a lot of false positives, and so they're using the fact that it's sampling 10 times a second to determine with the velocity of the car whether or not there's any false positives, and they're going to be using all of the data from all the other vehicles for the fleet learning. And man, there's a whole bunch of stuff that it's doing to improve. So it's really cool. Please comment below on what you think. If you think this is going to cause new issues, because they're talking about using the radar for more of the primary driving function as opposed to the camera. So they're going to have them work together better. Before, the radar wasn't really used. It was like a whole separate system. It wasn't linked together, and it was mainly just for braking or for tracking distance, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. And by the way, this is live. Ask any questions that you have. I can see them right here on the screen. I can see there's already 5 people watching. And if you have questions for my son, Colt, he's in the back seat. Say hi, Colt.
Hi.
He's hanging out in the back. So it's pretty cool. They're talking about this fleet learning, and that they're actually going to have it on all the time, which they've been doing before, where it's gathering all the data, whether or not you're driving on autopilot or not, and it'll be applying it to all the cars in future updates with the autopilot. And one of the really cool things that they mentioned is that the radar is now going to be able to see 2 cars in front of you. So if you're in a foggy situation and the car, the 2 cars ahead of you, if the other vehicle hits, like the deer or something, and it stops, the car in front of you doesn't stop, but you'll know to stop before that middle car in between you, which is pretty doggone cool that they can do that they can see underneath the cars and detect that. So here's some of the bullet points. See, there's 20 people on the stream now. So the Tesla automatic cruise control braking map rate has increased and latency reduced by a factor of 5. So that basically means that it's just going to be more responsive when you're coming up on vehicles. So it'll brake and respond sooner, or accelerate sooner. So it won't be as delayed. It'll be more like a real person, more responsive. So that's a big plus there. So now controls for 2 cars ahead using radar echo, improving cutout response and reaction time to otherwise invisible heavy braking events. That's what I was just talking about, where the car is going to basically magically see through the car in front of you to the next car, and if it needs to, brake. Hey, cool. So I see we got a bunch of comments here now. What's your views on Elon Musk's vision for Tesla? Well, I think it's awesome. I think shoot for the stars, man, or the moon, or Mars. Shoot for Mars. Some of the stuff seems a little bit out there, but 10 years ago, when he was saying that they'd have a 200 plus mile range car for around $30,000, people thought he was nuts because he was selling a $150,000 car that couldn't even go 300, or could barely go 200 miles. So I don't know. I think it may be a full 10 years before they get to the more far out there stuff of the autonomous driving and the ride sharing. And man, I can't wait until there's trucks, because living in Wyoming, that's all I see is SUVs and trucks everywhere, and nobody wants to even consider an electric car until they make something like that. So it's all good. Hopefully everything works out and we get to that point, and hopefully we get to it sooner than later. So let's see here. Cinnabon. Now you'll be looking with radar. Does that make you feel any safer? I think one of the things Elon said in previous interviews is the more redundancy and failover on systems, the better. And that's what I do for a living, is I work on networks and telecommunication networks, and we set up multiple towers, and there's failovers and backups of backups, and I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, if the visual system fails with the cameras, you got the radar backup and vice versa. The more data coming in, the more accurate it's going to be. So I think this is just a plus. As long as it doesn't break other systems, I think it's going to work out great. Any news on an 8.0 is planned to be pushed out to our cars? From everything I've read, basically just rumors on forums, Reddit, and Tesla Motors Club, it sounds like the beta's out there and they're just kind of just tweaking it. I would not be surprised if it came out later this week, or shortly after there's some other bad news, just to kind of shift people's focus. Because there's so many Tesla cars on the road right now. There's so much going on, and it's unfortunate, but there's some bad news that happens every once in a while, and I think they might wait to push it out until they need some good news to come out. Let's see, what are the drawbacks of this step? More learning. So anytime you push out something new, there's bound to be bugs. There's going to be things they didn't anticipate. Like they're talking about, well, I haven't got to it yet, but they're talking about passing people and it accounting for the fact that the person you're passing may be closer to the left lane, so you can get automatically over further away from that person when you're passing them, so they're not close to each other. They might overstep that and you might end up in the shoulder or something. I think there's a lot of things that need some fine-tuning and tweaking, especially the false positive on the radar, because right now you can select how soon you want to be alerted if you're about to hit something, and if you have it set to extremely early, or the highest setting, you get a lot of false positives where it just beeps at you and there's like nothing in the road, but apparently it could be a pop can that's in the road, and that's what's alerting you to brake. Do you think that Autopilot will behave differently because of these changes? Well, yeah, it is going to behave differently. Apparently, they're optimizing it. It's going to be more responsive. But if they're using more sensors and it's the same hardware, there may be some things that are less responsive. It'll be interesting to see. There's definitely going to be bugs. The sooner they release it, the buggier it's going to be. The quicker they release it, the later they wait to release it, the more stable it's probably going to be. And they're probably going to roll it out slowly. So he's saying wide release in a few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if there's people in California or close to Tesla service centers that get it sooner, in just a week or so. Has the type of roads Autopilot can be used on expanded? While owning a Tesla, it really doesn't limit you. Like, if it can see lines on the road, when you start it, it works. If the lines disappear and you're still on the road, as long as it sees one line, it still tries to work. It counts for the side of the road. It's here in Wyoming, though, if there's no line on the right side of the road and it's growth, like I don't know, we don't have grass, it's mostly sagebrush and dirt and stuff, then the car is kind of a little bit wobbly. It's not very straight. It's not the smoothest ride in the world, but it does work. What else? Let's see. Now there's sun in my eyes. Rear radar range should be the same as front. Speeders approaching from behind. Well, from what I understood is there's ultrasonic sensors around the car. There's a whole bunch of sensors. And the radar is only in the front of the car, so there is no rear radar. So I don't know how this update's going to help with that much, unless they're able to get more data out of the other sensors. So they didn't really talk about that in this blog post, so I don't know if it's really going to help with that at all. We'll have to see. I understand that he'll be able to use Autopilot to help exit from the freeway. How would you like having that function? Oh, I think it'd be cool. You can kind of do it now. It depends on how the exit on the freeway works, but if you turn it on and it's slowly on exit, it kind of already does it. But I think it's going to take... It sounds like they're going to be... Let me read this next bullet point. It says, will take highway exit if indicator on 8.0 or if nav system active 8.1 available in the United States initially. So that means in 8.0 it'll just, you hit the blinker and it'll go into the exit. But the cool thing is it sounds like on 8.1 it's going to take into account the navigation system and your destination. So it might actually do it for you, which is very interesting, or at least take into consideration where your destination is when it's deciding which lane to pick. Because there's a lot of times you come up in the lane splits or merges or whatever, and if it's taking into account what you have in your navigation system, then it'll be, you know, obviously it'll go where you want it to go. I'm gonna turn on my air conditioner a little bit because it's getting hot in here. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the audio too bad. I'll see if I can just turn it down to the minimum. Alright. So, I'm at the Supercharger. I'm trying to get home. And it looks like we're about full. So I'm going to wrap this up here. And hopefully, if you guys like these live chats, I'll do them. I'll try and do them once a week. What else? Let me get through these and then I'll do a couple more questions and then I got to go. So... car offsets lane when overtaking slower vehicle. I went over that. Interface alerts are much more predominant, including flashing on white border and instrument panel. That's probably from the wreck that happened over in Montana, where the owner was claiming they just didn't know that it was telling them to take on the wheel. They didn't speak English. So instead of just kind of slowly beeping in the little tiny alert, they're going to make a whole border flash and really let you know the autopilot's not on, or you need to take over on the wheel right away. Improved cut-in detection using blinker on vehicle ahead. That's really cool. So it'll see if somebody's got their blinker on and they're going to go into the lane in front of you. Right now it doesn't do that, so it can slow down, you know, if somebody's starting to cut in, which would be really handy. And reduced likelihood of overtaking right lane in Europe. What else? Improved auto lanes changed availability. So right now, the auto lane change doesn't work if there's anything in if there's a car next to you, for sure. But it's really sensitive, so it doesn't want to have any false positives where it's saying, okay, we're going to change lanes, even though it's not safe. So they're going to make it apparently more accurate, so it'll allow you to use that feature more often. And that's one of the bug things that I hope won't happen. Is the bad bug would be it's telling you it's safe to change when it's not. They say in there never to trust it, and I never trust it. I always look too, but anytime they can make it, I don't know. They call it autopilot, or maybe they should call it co-pilot or whatever. But you know, anything that they can help you. So if you forget or you don't look or you don't notice, and the car notices for you, that's a plus. That's a safety feature. That's good. They're also talking about automatic braking will not amplify braking for emergencies. That means if you hit the brakes and it detects that you're definitely going to hit something, it'll hit the brakes even harder for you, which is really cool. It's also saying the car will not allow re-engagement of Autosteer until parked if the user ignores repeated warnings. So if people are just refusing to put their hands on the wheel, it'll disengage and it won't let you turn it back on until you park the car. So I think that's a good thing. Some people might not like that, If you're trying to drive hands-free all the time and just barely touch it every once in a while, that might not work anymore, which is probably going to make a lot of people mad, but it's safe. Safety is what they're looking at here. They don't want people getting in wrecks. A car will not allow re-engagement of Autosteer until parked if user ignores... Oh yeah, I just read that one. In manual mode, alerts driver about to leave the road with no torque on wheel has been detected since Autosteer was deactivated. So what I take that to mean is, if you think you have Autopilot on and you don't, and it detects that you're not touching the wheel, and you start to drift out of the lane, it'll let you know, get your hands back on the wheel, Autopilot's off. So that's good, because I've read before there was a wreck that happened, or maybe a couple of them, where people thought they were in Autopilot and they ran off the road because they weren't. The sounds are somewhat similar, and they just thought it was on and it wasn't. With further data gathering, car will activate Autosteer to avoid collisions when probability 100%. So they're saying with the fleet learning, eventually it's going to get good enough that they think if, I don't know, somebody had an accident and, you know, or they had a brain aneurysm or something, and they started to go off the road, the car would autocorrect and prevent them from hitting something, even though Autopilot's not on. If they're detecting there's an obstacle that can be avoided, it'll do it. So I think that's really cool. Like they said, it's going to be a ways out. They've got to get enough fleet data to do it, but that's a plus. And they say there are another 200 some small enhancements that they didn't bother putting bullet points on. So that'll be cool too. Wow, a lot of comments. Thanks everybody that's viewing. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get all the comments right now. I got to get home because how far away are we? 300 miles? 300 miles from home, and it's 5 o'clock, so it's gonna be a long ride home. Actually, could you read some of these to me, and then we could just go?
I guess so.
Okay. All right. So my wife's nice enough that she's gonna read the comments, and I'm gonna start driving home. And I'm gonna go unplug from here. Let me show you what it looks like here. This is our supercharger station here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's always an RV show going on nonstop. There are 4 stations here. It's usually pretty open. There was one Tesla here when I got here.
Oh, they're so tiny.
Yeah, so you should be able to, can you read them from there?
Kinda. I understand that he'll be able to use Autopilot to help exit from the freeway. How do you think you'd like having that function? Did you already do that one?
Yeah, I answered that one.
Okay.
And the answer is yes. I think that'd be cool.
Has the radar improved in detecting static objects?
It sounds like it will. More point cloud data.
Make a U-turn if possible. Now make a U-turn if possible.
You can hear the
just
Tesla
turn
talking.
off the navigation?
Yeah.
Because we know where we're going.
Well,
In 200 feet, turn right, then turn right onto Delrange Boulevard.
Okay.
Now turn right.
I thought Elon's relations with Solar City would have solar panels on every supercharger.
That's interesting. So there's a few superchargers that have the solar panels, but the fact of the matter is, you don't just need a canopy. You need like a whole entire parking lot to power a supercharger. And if people are always charging, it's going to be really difficult to provide enough power to charge everything. It'll help supplement the power, and if it's grid tied, it'll help feed back into the grid and then pull from it when it needs it. But the cost is it's really expensive. So I think their plan is to get as many superchargers out as possible and then go back through and add the solar canopies later on. maybe that'll have just one supercharger stall. So when we get to the point that there's, can you plug that in?
Yeah.
Thank you. When you get to the point with the Model 3 where it's probably going to be more like a couple hundred Teslas per supercharger, and they're all full all the time, they're going to be, paying big bucks for electricity, and that's when the solar panels are really going to help supplement that, cost. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they'll do it eventually, especially with the merge, when Solar City and Tesla merge. If they end up merging, I guess there's a lot of people opposed to it. Then we'll definitely see more of those solar canopies on superchargers.
Okay, it sounds like the new update will be using a lot of processing power. I wonder if we will see any system crashing or bugs from this.
Yes. I kind of touched on that earlier. I think anytime you add new features and things, there's going to be bugs.
You're gonna go left, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Great chat. Nice talking with you. Take care. Drive safe.
Thank you.
Thanks. Drive safe. Love the silence of the car.
Cool.
That's all.
That's all of them?
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining. Let's see what else we got. So we're down to 16 people, 17 people. I'll go ahead and end this transmission. Thank you again for joining. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do this more often. Maybe I'll try and schedule it out so that way people know when to join in. And please subscribe to both Tesla Trip, which is this channel, and Two Smart Guys. I've been promising that we're going to do more shows, but I mean it this time. We're going to do more shows. Heat is an enemy to technology. Keep it cool. Thank you. Wonder how far behind the stream is from when I'm talking.
I don't know.
Now, how do I end this?